Welcome to Remedy of the Week. My name's Mindy, I'm a naturopath and herbalist, and each week I'm going to be sharing with you a remedy that I use in clinic or in natural medicine that is a practical application for an array of health issues. So today I'm going to be talking about a Chinese medicine herb called Bacal skullcap. So Bacal skullcap has been used for centuries through an array of different things, and mainly it is for things like allergies. It is from the botanical family of the Lamiaceae family, so each herb has its own botanical family. The part that's used out of this herb is the root. So the root possesses all of its different constituents, and it is used for a wide range of different ailments. So some of the major advantages of Bacal skullcap include that it is an anti-allergenic. It has cold properties. So in TCM or traditional Chinese medicine, we are looking at the properties of the plant. So is it cold inducing? Is it heat inducing? Is it damp inducing? That type of thing. Bacal skullcap is cold, so reduces heat. It is anti-inflammatory. It's an antihistamine. It is a hepatoprotective, which means it protects the liver, and it's anti-fibrotic. So fibrosis in the body can occur for many different reasons, and it does reduce that fibrotic tissue. So indications of Bacal skullcap include allergenic asthma, allergic rhinitis, mast cell syndrome. So mast cell syndrome occurs in people that have high levels of antibodies, including IgE antibodies, and they can cause an array of different issues. Atopic afflictions such as eczema and psoriasis. It removes excess heat from inflammation and fever. It is also used as a mouthwash for things like bacterial infections and gingivitis. It is also used for liver inflammation, and it is very, very mildly sedating, which can be very welcoming in those heat states because often the body is overwhelmed and, excitable. So it calms that side of things down. So we often get a little bit anxious when we're feeling sick. So Bacal skullcap has that advantage of calming the nervous system down in response to some of that inflammation during acute illnesses. So it is a perennial shrub-like herb, and it's indigenous to East Asia, including China and the Lake Baikal region in Siberia, hence its name. The dried root is almost always used in combination and is one of the 50 fundamental herbs used in TCM or traditional Chinese medicine. Bacal skullcap's extensive pharmacological activity is mainly due to its flavonoid content. So flavonoids, otherwise known as a type of antioxidant, are used to reduce oxidative stress in the body. So it is a highly valued herb in a variety of treatments throughout traditional Chinese medicine, Russian medicine, and in Western herbal medicine as well. So Bacal skullcap has been used in ancient Chinese medicine for thousands of years and is a prized, valuable herb that is used for a huge amount of traditional remedies. So for personal use, I have a story where I used Bacal skullcap during some acute asthma flare-ups that I had when I moved to a different region in my area. So this area is quite low-lying, and there are lots of pollens that gather in the springtime here, and I'm very, very sensitive to that. So I had childhood asthma growing up in Sydney. I was very sensitive to the environment. So thunderstorms in Sydney would often evoke a strong asthmatic response in my body. So during the time that I first moved here, my asthma exacerbated in the springtime, and I started to use a combination remedy of Bacal skullcap and turmeric, curcumins. And I found that it reduced my symptoms dramatically. It took about 6 weeks for the symptoms to reduce, but it helped to reduce them downstream so that my reactions to the environment were much less potent and I felt much better. So Bacal skullcap reduced my histamine response and acted as an antihistamine for me, and I found it very, very valuable. I still do use it for my family when we do have flare-ups of histamine. So it is a traditional Chinese medicine. It is energetically bitter and cold, And it can be used topically for hot rashes as well, and as a mouthwash for gingivitis. So it's a very widely used herb for a whole number of different things. So some evidence. I always like to talk about when herbs are studied for their evidence and what they're able to do. So relies heavily on traditional knowledge. So Bacal skullcap as an ancient medicine has been used for such a long time that we have a lot of anecdotal understanding of how it works. But there is a 70% success rate in chronic hepatitis patients, with improvements shown in liver function tests and symptoms in some studies. So that's very promising. Positive studies exist for bacterial and viral infections, such as acute bronchitis, colds, dysentery, and scarlet fever. A multi-centre analysis of 725 children older than 1 year of age with severe hand, foot, and mouth disease found IV Bacal skullcap rapidly relieved fever and attenuated the oral lesions and rashes, and improved NS involvement more effectively than ribavirin, which is a antiviral. So that's very, very exciting. Antihypertensive effects in an open study with 51 patients. So that is that cooling effect we know in people that have hypertension, that it is often a heat-inducing affliction. So the cold properties of Bacal skullcap reduce that affliction. A random control trial comparing a topical dentifrice containing Bacal skullcap and fluoride versus fluoride alone found significant reduction in the Bacal skullcap treatment group for gingivitis and plaque development in the mouth. So I would encourage using it without fluoride, but that was the study. So that's very, very interesting. So I use Bacal skullcap a lot in practice for things like allergies and asthma. It is great when there's inflammation activating a heat response in the body. So whenever people have had, hypertension, if they've been a bit stressed recently or their thyroid is acting up, particularly hyperthyroid cases, mast cell aggravation, I will use skullcap to help reduce that heat response. I also use it for chronic hepatitis presentations and liver issues with great success in practice. So we are very fortunate to have Bacal skullcap as a tincture and an extract and in powder form. So I'm just going to show you what the Bacal skullcap looks like in terms of its extract form. So in an extract, Bacal skullcap has rosalind in there, and it has beautiful constituents that give it a red kind of colour. So I'm just carefully pouring some of this out of the bottle. But that is like a milky colour you can see there, but it's also got a bit of red to it. And that is its beautiful tincture. Now when you smell Bacal skullcap, it has a really rich kind of scent to it. It's almost like a fruity smell. It is woody and fruity, and it's really, really pleasant to actually smell. So kind of like a mulberry type smell to it, because those constituents in there, particularly bacillin, which is very exclusive to Bacal skullcap, it has a really rich and therapeutic aroma. So it is a bit bitter and pungent, which is part of its Chinese medicine profile. So when it's taken by mouth, it exerts that amylase in the saliva and enables that response to the body to start secreting some of those antibodies. So it is a beautiful herb for that reason. I also have it in formulas that are anti-allergenic. So this complex is called an Albesia complex. And that is in combination with another herb called Albesia, which I will be promoting and talking about because they work so well together. And I have timed it really well because we are in the springtime here in the Southern Hemisphere, and that is when a lot of allergic rhinitis happens, when a lot of allergic asthma happens, sinus, things like that. And Bacal skullcap as one of the remedies, I'm just going to try and get that positioned so you can see that way, is one of the remedies listed here. So it is actually the second remedy in this Albesia complex, so Bacal skullcap there. And it's in combination here with some Albizia nigella sativa as well, the 3 herbs together as a tablet form. Some people struggle to take liquids, so I find sometimes that having a remedy that's all in one can make life a little bit easier. The liquids do act a lot faster though. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation on Bacal skullcap. Watch me every week where I present a new remedy and talk about how it all works, present evidence around that remedy, and share with you some of my kind of favourite tidbits around those. Thanks for watching.